NASCAR is a sport under constant scrutiny, questionable officiating, questionable rules packages, questionable champions. But what happens when all of these elements are combined into one? Well, you get what I like to refer to as the Dark Ages. And in NASCAR, there's a 5-year gap that perfectly encapsulates all of that. No, not that 5-year gap. Trust me, I hated seeing Jimmie Johnson win all those championships as much as the next guy, but no, in my opinion, the true Dark Age of NASCAR was from 2015 to 2020. Here's why. After the absolute chaos of the late 2014 season, NASCAR fans were amped for more heading into the mid-2010s. But before the 2015 season even started, NASCAR embroiled themselves in a massive controversy, as they decided to finally reduce the horsepower of the Cup cars from 900 to roughly 725. And the result was a season full of NASCAR naps. The first couple of weeks of the season itself got off to a rough start, and I mean before the Daytona 500 even happened. On January 22nd, legendary driver and arguably NASCAR's most recognizable modern driver, Jeff Gordon, would announce his retirement to the world, which meant from the get-go, this would be a very bittersweet season. I've been to funerals that were less depressing than that day. And only a day before the Daytona 500, Kyle Busch, NASCAR's greatest villain, would crash out in the late stages of the Xfinity race, breaking his leg and keeping him sidelined for the first third of the season. Not that it would matter, because with NASCAR's win and you're in system, making the playoffs would still be a piece of cake for old KB. Well, at least for 2015 Kyle Busch, maybe not 2024 Kyle Busch. And just glancing at the rest of the regular season results, you can almost smell the boredom. With the sole exception of Martin Truex winning a Pocono for Furniture Row Racing, pre-Joe Gibbs affiliation I might add, this might be the first season with 0 upset winners. Even your 4 super speedway races were won exclusively by Dale Jr. and Joey Logano, the most expected results. Anyway, Austin Dillon hit the fence, Joey Logano buoyed the quiet kid until he snapped, and Wonder Boy got one last sentimental win at Martinsville. Those are your 3 highlights of a 36 race long season. Oh, and Kyle Busch would make an absolute mockery of the new playoff system by winning the championship with only 25 starts under his belt, finally proving what we had all been denying for years, that most of the NASCAR season really doesn't matter anymore. Oh, and who could forget that time NASCAR lost complete control of the Talladega Fall race? That sure was fun. After that dumpster fire of a season, we would bid adieu to Jeffrey G, and following him out the door the next season would be the fan favorites Tony Stewart, Bobby Labonte, and rather unexpectedly, Carl Edwards. And of course, NASCAR's most popular driver, Dale Earnhardt Jr. would sit out half the season with a concussion, which between him and Jeff Gordon, probably more than half of the NASCAR fanbase were searching for a new favorite driver this year. Once again, if you took Pocono off the schedule where Chris Buescher won with fog, there's not a single unpredictable winner in this entire season. Jimmie Johnson also had the worst season of his 15-year-long career at this point, which resulted in him walking away with his 7th championship thanks to a couple of convenient victories. Everybody say thank you, NASCAR playoffs! That's what I thought. Oh, and Carl Edwards got screwed by a phantom debris caution with 10 to go at Homestead, which ultimately made him go, I'm out. 2017 would be another season mired in controversy right from the start, as Monster Energy would rebrand NASCAR in more ways than one. Stages would be added to every race, much to the disdain of fans and drivers alike. Partly done for TV money, but also because NASCAR has known that the racing from the past 2 seasons was in need of critical repair. So why not just throw 2 fake cautions during the race as a small band-aid on stage 4 cancer? And the lovely new playoff system that had contributed to 2 of NASCAR's least deserving champions in the previous 2 seasons would be reinvented with the addition of playoff points, proving that NASCAR was committed to this war crime for the long haul. But despite these changes, 2017 was a notable improvement from the previous 2 seasons. Kurt Busch finally completed his villain-to-hero origin story with a win in the Great American Race. Kyle Larson finally started winning the heaps of races we all knew he was capable of, even in Chip Ganassi equipment. Ryan Blaney earned an extremely rare W for the young guys at Pocono, holding off the likes of Kevin Harvick and Kyle Busch. Austin Dillon took home a thrilling first win in the Coke 600 at Charlotte, and Matt Kenseth and Casey Kane both scored extremely feel-good final wins in Indianapolis and Phoenix. So as far as compelling storylines go, this season was a substantial improvement. And finally, the playoff system would produce its first worthy champion in Martin Truex Jr., who scored a career-high 8 victories this season. But while the season ended on a high note, it also meant the departure of more of the drivers from NASCAR's greatest generation. As Dale Earnhardt Jr. would join Jeff, Tony, and Carl in the retirement home, Matt Kenseth would sorta, kinda, but not really retire, And Casey Kane reached the end of his days at Hendrick, which basically meant his career was over too. But worse than any of that, NASCAR would also lose its third unofficial stage break in the form of Danica Patrick, who also stepped away from full-time racing at the end of this season. So while 2017 was a bright spot in the dark, it was clear heading into 2018 that a crisis was heading NASCAR's way. Almost every fan-favorite driver had retired by this point. The young guys were rarely winning and didn't show as much promise as the rookies of the late 90s and early 2000s. And while Truex walked away with the hardware in 17, it was only a matter of time before another fluke championship arrived. And so, 2018 kicked off with Austin Dillon pulling his best Great Value Intimidator impression of the Daytona 500, wrecking Eric Almirola on the last lap, followed by wins by Kevin Harvick, and then a few weeks later, Kyle Busch, and Kyle Busch. And then Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, Martin Truex, Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, Martin Truex. Oh God, when would stop? For anybody not a fan of these three drivers, which is like probably 80% of the NASCAR fan base at this point in time, this was the season from hell. The Big Three, as they were known, won 21 of 36 races this season. The only seasons with a more dominant group in recent history were 2008, where Kyle Busch, Jimmy Johnson, and Carl Edwards won 24 of 36 races, or 1998, where Jeff Gordon and Mark Martin won 23 of 33 races. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, watch out for 2028. These years that end with the number 8 do not have a good reputation. But what made 2018 worse than 2008 or 1998 is that this battle of the heavyweights wasn't even won by one of them. Rather, it was another driver that most NASCAR fans couldn't possibly care less about, Joey Logano, who won his way into the playoffs with a fortunate run at Talladega and then snookered the cup with 2 well-timed wins in the playoffs at Martinsville and Homestead. This very well could have been the greatest heist in NASCAR history. And with the exceptions of Chase Elliott's first win at Watkins Glen, a chaotic finish at the Roval, and Logano bumping and banging with Truex to the finish at Martinsville, this was a season to forget for almost everybody. After such an abysmal season, NASCAR knew that their only option going forward was parity. We already have parity in champions, so why not have 36 races of parity along the way? And with that, NASCAR devised their worst idea since their last idea. The 550 horsepower package. Now every race could be a super speedway race. In theory, at least. In reality, we just got the exact same subpar mile-and-a-half racing that we've been getting for the last 4 years, but now 30 miles an hour slower, and with even less passing. And mind you, this is when intermediates populated a good 2/3 of the schedule, far unlike the more varied schedule we have today. In this entire season, pretty much the only decent moments were Kurt Busch beating his brother at Kentucky and Alex Bowman battling Kyle Larson for his first career win at Chicagoland. Other than that, I struggle to recall a single race from this season. Anyway, the same Big Three plus Denny Hamlin won another 23 races this season. Denny choked again, and Kyle Busch won the championship. That's all I got. So did we get parity? Nope. We just ruined everything else. Finally, NASCAR brought out the big guns with radical schedule changes in 2020. The problem is, most of these changes were pushed back a year because of COVID. But we did get 3 Darlington races in 1 year, so that's something. And 2020 certainly had way more memorable races than 2019 did. Spring Bristol, or Bristol early summer I guess, was an absolute banger. Talladega summer was amazing from start to finish. Having Daytona as the regular season finale with William Byron scoring his first career win to make the playoffs was exciting. And Kurt Busch continued a streak of sentimental victories with a hometown win at Vegas. So was the season good? No. As the season dragged on, the excitement of just having NASCAR back before any sport was slowly replaced with, oh yeah, we still have the 550 horsepower package feeling. On top of that, like 2018 and 2019, this season was largely dominated by only a handful of drivers. In this case, Denny Hamlin and Kevin Harvick. And with Harvick in particular getting screwed in the round of 8, partly by NASCAR and partly by himself, it just left a sour taste in the mouth of everybody who wasn't a Chase Elliott fan at season's end. See, if you're gonna stink up the entire season, at least win the championship, dang it! Don't make me feel like all those wins were for nothing! So why don't I include 2021 in the dark ages of NASCAR? Is it because of my extreme bias as a Larson fan? Probably. But like I said, 2021 did bring a lot of positive changes. 2311 and Trackhouse came to the sport, Bristol Dirt was a neat experiment, at least for 1 year. We got a lot of road courses with a car that actually raced really well on road courses. And even if Larson did win 10 races, at least we got a rare deserving champion. And the other 26 races were anything but predictable. McDowell winning the 500, Bell winning in his second start for Joe Gibbs. Alex Bowman, of all people, had 4 victories. including the time he stunted on Denny Hamlin at Martinsville. Allmendinger won the Indy Road Course, Bubba Wallace got his first win at Dega. I mean, all things considered, even with the 550 package, this was a highly memorable season. Also, the 2021 Bristol Night Race is like the greatest playoff race of all time. This is not up for debate. And sure, while the next gen has had its struggles, at the very least we got some horsepower back, NASCAR actually succeeded in drawing some parity back to the sport, and the schedule has never been better if you ask me. I mean, did we ever have anything as cool as the street race or Wilkesboro or the wall ride during the Dark Age? We're not even close to those Dark Ages anymore if you ask me. Well, we still have the playoffs and dirty air, but oh well. But do you agree? Is 2015 through 2020 the worst age of modern NASCAR? Let me know in the comments down below. But don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed, subscribe for more videos just like this one, and check out dailydownforce.com for more awesome NASCAR content.